Hello and herzlich willkommen zum Auf die Fresse, the WXW review podcast in English. I'm Ian Hamilton. He's Mike Kilby. How's things?
All good. I think we're both. Typically, we dropped our pod, and then we both got COVID.
So speak for yourself. I had a very close call. I never got the 2 lines, but it shows how it felt like it. Jen, she had the 2 lines for a week. Luckily, disappeared just in time for Easter, but yeah. Who's done wrestling shows?
I had to spend my birthday by myself, basically, which is kind of probably what I would do anyway, really. But doing good now. I think you appreciate how healthy feels when you've got this, when you've had that. So but no, all good.
I mean, it's just weird. I mean, it's going to go off on a tangent, this, but it's weird how both of us went to Germany for best part of a week. Absolutely nothing. We spent an afternoon in Portland Street, and
it's Andy Q's fault, basically.
Well, a lot of people will throw a lot of stuff at Andy Q, but
this might not be entirely. Yeah.
Well, people who are watching for VODs probably throw a lot of stuff his way, but we'll see where that goes. But since we last joined you guys a few weeks back, there's been 2 Wheel of Wrestling shows, a fair amount of news coming out of those. Some news on WXW guys heading over to England as well. So may as well get going for the news stories, and we don't have any fancy production or bongs or anything like that. So we'll touch on the first bit, the spoiler from the Frankfurt show, and WXW has a new sporting director. We'll go deep into that on the review of the Frankfurt show, but it's former Shotgun champion Norman Harras. Not a name I've picked.
And I did slag off Harras on the last one. I did mention that. He was. Neither of us really mentioned him, but then actually, I think as soon as he came out, you're like, oh, actually, Joe, what? That makes a bit of sense, really. I think. There's obviously things going on with it, as there always is. I think the sporting director isn't really a passive role on the promotion. It's an active part of the sort of the way the narrative is structured in WXW. But I think it's a very good choice. I think he does seem to do sort of character work quite well, even if he does kind of play it a little bit wooden on occasion. But I think especially if we say going a little ahead, the whole potentially crooked behavior going on, I think it's going to be quite interesting, especially I always think whenever you set something up like this, the way you get out of it is the interesting thing. So what happens after he gets his comeuppance is the interesting thing.
We can touch on that. He's had an awful lot of good luck. Everything came up Millhouse, but I mean, Norman's been on the roster. November 2018 he made his debut.
Main roster, yeah.
Had a look on his cage match. He's been in Canada with the Canadian Wrestling's Elite, so he's had matches with like Psychosis, Jimmy Jacobs, Killer Cross, RH's Vincent. Usual blend of guys you'd expect from like Norman Harras to have a match on his first international tours, and that's why he's got match international superstar name. Which, that intro's getting a bit long already, and help us all if he gets the Shotgun title back.
Yeah, as I say, he's been out to Canada a couple of times, hasn't he? Because I think it was basically he was one of the, if I say he was the first person to go on excursion, I think it was officially framed as an excursion from the academy, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, again, world shutting down, all that's kind of put the mockers on it, but again, it's been CWE, they tend to do all of Canada. It's not just like again, my knowledge of Canadian
Indians.
It's not one state. It's not one town. They do all over. I think it's Danny Duggan, not that one who runs it. So he gets a lot of international names, and I think Juventud Guerrero's done a bunch of shows. Tend to get names. Almost, I dare say, almost like if you imagine the old South Side, but touring the entire country.
South Side, yeah,
that kind of thing. Ironically, North Side, but. Norman's first big break to WXW came, ironically, as a substitute for Eddie Kingston in the last World Tag Team Festival. There's a thread there.
God, I forgot Eddie Kingston was meant to be in that.
Yeah, the last few festival weekends I've been out to, there's always been people pulling out either from
Well,
about to
yeah,
take the night
that was the
or
Curse tournament, wasn't it?
yeah. I think
Yeah,
with some like he again, I can't remember the exact, but there's a family incident with Eddie, and yes, he pulled
yeah,
out. It was one of those things was so late in the day, there wasn't oh, let's get this flying. Even now, with Biff Busick was the case of they went, they said it was 30 names they were looking at, and then they settled with Mario Solani. With this, they decided, well, we'll just look inside. They did the whole thing with David Starr picking Norman Harras as the replacement.
yeah,
They upset the Crown on night one, pinning Alexander James. Then night two, Norman accidentally uh, hit Starr, and then all that stuff led to night three, where Bobby and the Bastards was born.
yeah. And so is it the Bobby the Bastards, which was the unofficial name coined by me. But I don't actually know if it ever did really have a faction, didn't it? But it never actually ever. Sorry, I don't know if it ever actually did have a proper name, but
No, it's
um,
just Bob and his ragtag bunch of mates. I mean, it was never like a branded only friends T-shirts or anything like that, like we're getting these days.
yeah. Although I reckon you probably could have done a good line of clothing with them with that group, but. Yeah, obviously they sort of stuck around they was around for a long while, really, weren't they?
Yeah,
Up
went
until at
through.
least to the end, sort of towards the end of 2020.
Yeah, I mean, went through the empty set stuff. Because remember, the Shotgun 2020 was largely based around all them, even with Oliver Carter. He was first live, then he was on was it through FaceTime before he faded into the distance, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was during the empty set stuff. It was that big feud with, well, say big feud, the ongoing stuff with Absolute Andy. Norman wanted the big match.
yeah,
He didn't want Vincent Heisenberg, ended up having to get Heisenberg, and then that culminated in the Great Academy Brawl that had
that was
Robert
great.
Dreisker throw a Fridgerton, which not a sentence I thought I'd ever be saying.
That was a great. That was a. I think that was one of the best sort of because I think everyone went a bit cinematic during the COVID era, and I thought that Academy Brawl was really good fun. One of the better ones, anyway. I can't think of many. I can't think of any that were better actually, but I didn't watch all of them.
Yeah, there's a few that definitely went a little bit too. Hey, we can pre-produce this. Let's have all the smoke and mirrors, and that was just yeah, they filmed it like it was one big take. I mean, okay,
Yeah,
you had Harris throwing the setting up the fire extinguisher, outside the toilets of the academy. It was a great time capsule piece for folks who haven't been to the academy. If you've just seen the one fixed camera, you see the view most
yeah.
of the sketch when we went through the circles.
Yeah, did let you sort of have a look around, sort of the whole thing. And the spot I remember from it was the Dreisker being caught in the garage door and him able to lift the whole garage door up, which I remember that. But that was I remember it looking a little bit suspect, but I do remember that.
Well, we won't peel back the curtain. I mean, obviously that match did scar Norman. Was that segment was at one of the anniversary shows.
Yeah,
Gone to the academy, opened the door, Dreisker answered, and looked like he shit himself. That's can't prove or deny anything there. End of 2020, Norman won the Shotgun title. He upset Metahan on his way out of the company. And then that led to the Shotgun title lottery, which we still have now, the whole random opponents with massive air quotes, if you can see on webcam. 15-minute time limits and all that. Norman lose to Prince of Who in June last year. He got really paranoid during the title reign. I think the whole thing with the Who stuff was Who was trying to tell him he'd been drawn. Norman just didn't pick this phone. He ended up losing in what 20 odd seconds, something like that, if I remember right.
yes, it was. It wasn't well at all.
Really squashy.
Yeah. Well, it was more of a flash. It was a flash finish, wasn't it? It wasn't
Yeah.
really a squash.
So yeah, Norman had a one-day reign just before Christmas, beat Michael Knight, then lost to Absolute Landy. Didn't make it to Carrot this year. He had that whole weekend tag with Sebastian Suave. And then first show after Carrot, he's the new sporting director. And we can touch on what happened those few shows. But yeah, he's definitely using his influence wisely or unwisely, but he's definitely putting himself up around a bit.
Yeah, he's definitely well, he's been able to wangle his way into a few opportunistically positive outcomes already. But I say, do we want to go on to Frankfurt first before we do
Yeah, we can do. We can
yeah,
wrap up the little bits
the
tidbits.
rest of it? Yeah,
So yeah, go to Real of Wrestling 29. That's the show in Frankfurt at the I think it's the 2nd of April. Sold out
yeah.
crowd 480 called WXW. And yeah, I mean this particular lineup, we had looked for card when we previewed it. It looks like it's a very solid show. The hot, Frankfurt crowd. I think it's their first time there in 2 years, and yeah, I mean we want to go top to bottom. Rotten Flot beat Dennis Stolnick and Hector. That was one where, obviously, over Carrot Weekend, Rotten Flot and Hector and Dulnig had that thing in the tag gauntlets.
I think so. I think the important thing with this match is it was the first point where Hector seemed to warm to Dennis.
Yeah.
So obviously at the end of the match, Nikita Charisma and Schenkerberg, they didn't they tied Dolnig to the ropes using his shoelaces. Is that right? I
Let
think that
me
was the
read.
finish. I
No,
think that was the finish.
it was Hector being tied in the corner, and it was Dulnig who took a fall yet, but
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Vice versa, whatever it was.
well, Dennis thinks he's Hector sometimes.
Yeah, so do I. And obviously Dennis was completely like distraught about he's let everybody down, and then Hector's like, "Come on, bro, let's it's not your fault." And it was kind of a nice, really sort of feel good thing. And I think I've always liked tag teams which are just two good lads.
Yeah.
And I think this is an excellent excellent entry into the two good lads tag team column.
And of course, Rotten Flotch, their whole thing is, oh, we're being cheated, everyone's out to screw us, and then they just cheat and screw everyone to win, which I always like tag teams that are very hypocritical, especially if they're designed to be booed.
Yeah.
You see the whole, oh, no, someone's held outside, well, having someone, lose because they're literally tied to the turnbuckles. You don't see that all the time, so it's a new wrinkle as opposed to the usual, we handcuffed you, we gaffer taped you to the ropes, that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
so this feud, I guess, will continue. Vincent Heisenberg against Igel Blanc, so was meant to have been Senza against Igel Blanc. That got rescheduled for the Papenburg show a week later. Senza, I think, had a neck injury and had his car broken into.
Yeah, he was robbed, wasn't he? Yeah.
I don't know if he's walked under any ladders, but yeah, that wasn't a good week for him. But he's wrestling again now. We're talking about the Papenburg show, but this, a lot of this, was the David and Goliath stuff. But yeah, in the end, the Heisenberg Power Slam of Doom was enough to get the win for him.
Yeah, it was fairly meat and potatoes sort of stuff. Really, it wasn't anything. Life changing really as a match, but yeah, it was all right.
The Wrexham Academy Cups made its way into the main roster shows. Jacob Crane losing to Oscar and Freemans, but that was kind of a background stuff. The big thing here was Robert Dreisker, we mentioned last episode, was suspended for attacking and I guess re-retiring Francis Caspin. He bought a ticket. Lucky for him, he got them just before they sold out. He stared down Oscar during the entranceway, threw his cup of water at him, and then got carted out the Batschkapp, which, hey, we saw someone get thrown out of a turbine hall for not wearing his mask. So what the hell did he expect?
I didn't see that, but
yeah, it was on the Saturday show. Like, apparently the guy was, obviously back then you had to wear a mask unless you were eating or drinking. Apparently the guy was just taking a piss, keeping the mask down, sipping, nursing his pint. It was literally all he saw was, I don't know if it made tape, but I definitely saw it. Big Bird security guard came out, tapped him on the shoulder, walked out the back, never to be seen again. Which
fair enough. Yeah, well, obviously, yeah, like you say, the whole thing was built around the angle. Obviously, Dreisker on the Dreisker obviously in the crowd for the first for the first 2 or 3 matches. Wasn't really mentioned. I think before wasn't really like it was never like alluded to unless you sort of specifically looking for it.
Yeah, I think Schenkenberg, I wouldn't say got in, but like, gave him a passing glance, but there wasn't any, oh, look, it's Robert Dreisker. Robert Dreisker's in the crowd. That
Yeah.
kind of subtlety hammer stuff. So it wasn't, and it also wasn't, hey, there's an empty seat. I wonder who. Yeah. So he was there, he was watching. It wasn't the, hey, he turned up late, a big show and tell like you get in some of the places.
I think it would have actually, I mean, I do actually think it would have been better if they had drawn attention to it. But I don't know. Maybe I suppose you don't because you.
Copycat
I don't
stuff,
know.
that kind of
I
thing.
suppose it becomes Chekhov's gun, doesn't it? So if you if you show Dreisker in the crowd, he has to do something.
Yeah.
I suppose there's that, isn't there?
But yeah, Oscar got the win pretty quick. I mean, a lot of the match, he was obviously distracted. Jacob Crane got way more than I expected. But again, you don't expect to, have someone chuck a drink at you on your way out.
No.
And so yeah, I mean, it wasn't bad. But again, 3-4 minutes, it was what it was.
For sure.
And it keeps building the Oscar Dreisker story, which again, Dreisker suspended. I think we've got the Via show next weekend. So he's obviously not going to be on match. I think last I saw he's playing the saxophone Bleeding Gums Dreisker. So yeah.
Yeah,
So
I saw some
keep
videos of
occupied.
that. Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's a good thing if he can do that as your backup. I suppose. I didn't realise he could play saxophone.
I'm sure he'll be telling us he's got more talents. I mean, bragging's maybe not the right word, but he's definitely beating drum about how he saw Hungry for everybody else. Well, if you get booked there, of course you're going to see it before everybody else. But yeah, so after that, Dan Mormon throughout the show he'd been looking for the new sporting director, and looked stunned. Norman Harras, dressed like he's going to do polo or something like that, turned up, walked into the office. Dan followed and got told off for
Who
going
is it?
uninvited. And again, if I guess if you speak German, you probably picked up Norman telling to use Z instead of do the more formal way of saying you, I guess. So Norman Harris, we said, is the new sporting director. Apologized for what happened with Dreisk, and then through to the tag title match, which do over from the Oberhausen Wheel of Wrestling, Bobby Guns, Michael Knight, the only friends, against Fast Time Mudo and Stephanie Mays. And I don't know if I want to say I preferred the Oberhausen
I know
match,
what you mean. Yeah,
but of course the finish. But I mean, this was really good. But to me, again, maybe it's a live bias. But yeah, it was.
I think
good,
there was an element of. I think they kind of had to do this match. I don't know whether there was an element of they had unfinished business in the match because they kind of didn't get to do the finish. So I kind of, and because it was a no contest, it kind of makes sense that they do it again. I kind of feel like they didn't really need to do this match again.
Maybe not so soon.
As in the promotion didn't. I don't think there was a 2-match series for this match in the event. In a world where Michael Knight doesn't get injured, I don't think there's a 2-match series between Only Friends and Mudo and Mace. So it was a match that obviously fulfilled the function of what it was doing. But yeah, I completely agree. I think the one at Carrot was a lot better. Yeah, it was. That kind of was. I think it was a little bit going through the motions, really.
So from there we go to the Shotgun Lottery. Maggot, of course, but we'll be champion out first in Frankfurt. So big hometown hero reaction. You get the big who's it going to be? Norman Harris. Who would have thought it?
Look who won the pony. Yeah, it was. Well, it's as I said last time. Harris being the surprise opponent is always a disappointment. And I think they're really leaning into it now. It was. I think the match itself was all right. It wasn't. It was all about Maggot at home, really, wasn't it? It wasn't really Maggot's increasingly. I think as we go into the next show, Maggot's increasingly frustrated with this.
Yeah, I mean,
this charade that is going on.
I think again, you've
yeah,
got like back history. They were part of the same group for a while.
yeah,
With that whole thing where with who and House was getting relentlessly bullied at times. I think you'd say. So
yeah.
Parvis is now getting the comeuppance, and it's not going to be a one shot. Hey, I've done it. It's all over. So they are pulling that bit out, but yeah, it's the whole thing of. I mean, I guess the next shot probably should pull through who's had the most shotgun title matches. I think Dennis Dulling's had a lot. Norman
Yeah, he has
Pace
done
is
it a
going to be
lot.
getting a lot more, but yeah, I mean, it was fine, but again, it's part of a wider story, and again, that's what you're getting with the Wrexham. You're getting the wider story. It's not just boom, Norman's the director, boom, Norman gives himself a title shot, boom, he wins, and then what? Because unlike some other companies, they are running multiple shows a month. You
Yeah,
can't just run and pay off a story in 2 hours. But so if I
they're
want,
running multiple shows a month, and also every show is broadcast
yes,
every show is broadcast within a reasonable amount of time, being the asterisk there. So they have to really, they can't really just, you know, in the past they might have done. Oh well, we're gonna throw a shotgun title match on it, and we'll just do Norman versus Maggot or Maggot versus Hector, for example. They can't just throw that out every single like small town, because every single show's broadcast.
Evan's got to stand on its own two
Whereas in the
feet. Yeah.
past, I think in the past when Shotgun was, it was just the two sort of. There was a Toby Blunt match on that was just chucked on the show.
Yeah, it's like
Uh,
that's how Pretty Bastards first came around. They were, when we're in Frankfurt,
yeah,
they were, random. I think we said this in the last episode with Jeremy Graves doing his damnedest not to say Pretty Bastards.
yeah,
They were the local team. Okay, they're to lose. Pretty sure Hector in the former in past life, he's had the same kind of run. You go for
TKO,
you go for shotguns. A Juvenile X. There's another blast from the past through
yeah.
on the local loop, but yeah, I mean, like
Young
say,
Lions as well.
yep,
Yeah,
got Corey as well when we've hit the Berlin area as well.
yeah. It was there's a lot that just kind of appear for a couple of weeks and then just disappear again, isn't there?
So moving on, we've got the women's title match. Ava Everett defending in a freeway, Eva Kolaski and Baby Allison. And wouldn't you know it, Mike, Frankfurt, hometown, Baby Allison leaves for title.
Yeah, she gets that extra 10 horsepower sort of on home ground, really, doesn't she? As I said, I think we said last time, Baby Allison probably the most improved wrestler of the pandemic in general. As I said previously, dreadful, but now she's literally she's got the German wrestling sort of scene in her hands, really. It doesn't hurt that she's with arguably the most charismatic wrestler to have come out of the country since Ilya. It doesn't hurt being sort of tagged with them, but it's she really held her own, I think, in it. Against, I think Eva Kolaski, I think she's sort of one of the weaker. She's pretty weak, I think. Ava Everett, I wasn't overly enamored with. But I think a lot of sort of going back to Alison, a lot of her strength is that she kind of avoids the fight really, really well. In the sense, if you remember, go back to the 6-man at in Oberhausen, like she was dodging stuff, like dodging all these sort of like attacks, and she was just doing it like a pro. There was the whole
Stay fresh.
Yeah.
You
I'm
bet
trying to mine something and realise I'm not on camera. But doing does the whole like dodging and backflip things, and it's just really, really cool stuff. So I think really at this point, unless you put it on one of the Hungarian girls, or you get somebody over from Britain, she's really the best person to have it.
Yeah, I think what I don't know if we touched upon this off air last week, but these current batch of cards, there's not that many for me, Hungarian lots, if you want to say. So if you're focusing on your core, your German roster, probably best bet, because you have had the Tyra Gates, the Nikki Foxleys, on shows. But if Baby Allison is part of a regular roster, well, there you go. You build a division around her. If it means you bring in someone like they haven't passed the Sky Smithson for a weekend, you bring in maybe Delia Calypso, someone from France, that kind of thing. You've got you've got your home challenge, your home champion taking on all comes from around the world. That boosts the profile as well.
Yeah, and I think there's always been a thing where WXW just the whole nature of WXW in itself being sort of a place to go because you can train and live there and whatever for 6 months. Like a lot of the basically anybody who's really been good in the last 3 or 4 years in the independent scene kind of had a quick cup of coffee in WXW.
Well,
And
we're used to guys, I would say, flavor month, but really hitting hot now. He had to stay in WXW, and that, unfortunately for him, I don't think came on the festival time. He was on a few shows, but that was back when they weren't taping everything. But there's a guy who really under the radar had that stay, mostly trained at the academy, and look where he is now.
Yeah, for sure, exactly. So as I said, there's always an opportunity for it wouldn't shock me if you got, well, for example, we're going into there's a Mash, well, we can say it, Masha Slamovich is coming over, I think, in the summer.
For the June shows.
Yeah, so for example, there's people like that who her doing a month and working Allison for a month. It's gonna pay dividends, I think, for her.
Yep. So after that, Dan moments with Tristan Archer for the main event. So originally it was a tag match, then it got turned into a freeway because Levaniel, I think the WXW flat out said he was isolating. Tristan tried to flag down Norman Harras and looked like he talked himself into something. Well, sure enough, Jesus match time freeway dance, and it's now for the title. Jörn Simmons, Axel Tischer, Tristan Archer main event, and surprised me, title change at the end of it, and I think there's some talk that Tristan had injured his fingers or something like that. Very, very surprising title change, bearing in mind they'd literally just crowned Tristan Archer a few weeks earlier in Oberhausen.
Yeah, it was a big shock. I kind of query how planned it was. Had they noticed, had this always been it couldn't have been the plan because it was a tag match, but was this something that was going to happen in Papenburg? Was it going to happen in 2 months' time in Hamburg? Or was it going to happen at True Colors or something like that? So it seems strange that they kind of pulled the trigger the way they did. I think whenever at least in my head, the general playbook is if you have to just do a quick sudden change to the card, you just kind of play a bit safe, but they didn't. And they didn't play. But I think Jörn being champion, Jörn's incredibly popular. I think he's sort of got himself out of the. I think for a while there was a bit of an unfair reputation. An unfair reputation as being a bit of a lazy worker. I think that's possibly because he was working sort of people who were the darling of the intelligentsia, sort of he worked a lot of people who were the sort of the spreadsheet favourites. But I think he's got a more explosive style now, and I think he was definitely going to get the title at some point this year. I think arguably he's been fairly overdue for it. But so I'm shocked it happened now, but I'm not shocked it happened. Yeah, if that makes sense.
I mean, just before the pandemic, and I know he did before Carrot Visio, was that video he put out, saying about how things were really focused on wrestling. He Carrot 2020 looked really good. Ben Evans shut down. I think we spoke like the empty set tapings he wasn't around, and then we came back for last year's shortcuts.
Yeah, because I think he pretty much did say a few months ago. It might have been last year, to be honest. Time is a myth these days, but he did say he did strongly consider just quitting wrestling during the pandemic. And I think he said it was 50-50. I think it was pretty close to, but um, and I have to admit, I was a bit worried that was the case because he kind of came back for that very, very, very short period and then just disappeared again. But he kind of came back around anniversary time, didn't he? He came back for the crowds, but I don't think he'd really had much in the closed set area, really, did he? 'Cause
I
I
think it was
don't
like
think he did catch Grand Prix, did he?
no, I think it was
No.
Shortcut for Top. Let's see how loud my keyboard comes through this time. He did Shortcut for Top, and then there was the tapings, whereas I think it was literally squash matches. I think it was Paris was one. It was like
Yeah, that was a great one.
I remember rightly, the
Yeah.
whole thing there was just he did the whole thing where he wasn't sure if he wanted to stay. Yes, I'm looking now. He was the Shortcut for Top that Mike Schwartz won. You then
Yeah,
had the Paris stuff from the Shotgun 2020, the tag with Marius in the Cutting Holds Outdoor show.
yeah,
Hector, Dennis Zinner, there's a blast from the past. Then he won Shortcut last year. Then, yeah, he had the match with Marius. He lost in Oberhausen, the delayed 20th anniversary show.
yeah,
Then he's always been around the title picture, that tag with Flavaniel.
yeah.
So it's not been the case if he won Shortcut, disappeared. He did in 2020, but since he came back in 2021, it has been full steam ahead.
Yeah, for sure. And as I said, I think he's added a few more strings to his bow, and I think it seems to have improved him greatly, and I think he's entirely justified in being there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, when I first started getting into WXW, he was the guy who did the really, really, really long, air guitar entrance, which got
Yeah.
massively over. But at the same time, it's like, well, if we keep doing the same loops, that is the kind of thing which you probably can't do in every show,
Yeah.
and yours needs to be more than. I mean, it needs to do more than that. But then move on. So following week, they made their debut in Papenburg, and talking about you, Mike,
Great
when we
venue.
both seen the show. I want to see a wrestling show there now. Like,
Yeah, great venue.
It started early evening, bright sun outside, the sun going down, then with nighttime. Like, that building was absolutely beautiful for wrestling. The way it was shot, the way it was just all staged.
I love a venue which changes. Sorry, I do love a venue that changes as the show goes on.
It's more
It's
than just
obviously
a
not something
sealed
that's
box.
easy to do. Yeah, the fact that there was natural light going through for the sort of the early bits, and then obviously it gets darker and darker. In the same way that I think what was the Mania that was at San Francisco? It's why Stadium WrestleManias are kind of I do enjoy sort of the juxtaposition between the early card matches in the daylight, and then it's like pitch black for the nighttime sort of thing.
I think last Mania I was at was Orlando 2008, and that was an outdoor one. You start like the ladder match with blazing sunlight, and then main events pitch black. It's like, oh yeah, really have been here that long.
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of did like that about this venue in Papenburg, and bit of a bugger to get to. I have no idea how I'd get there. I was actually trying to work out if I was going, how would I get there? And I think it's probably a flight to Hamburg and driving, probably.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't think we've got a return date. I hope they do, because, like I said, it is a bucket list venue now, just from that one show. But
a lot of I think a lot of the workers really enjoyed it there.
I mean, it's as well. I mean,
a lot of people who went there as well enjoyed it.
Like, just from showing, like, it wasn't standing; it was all on like benches, for one better word. So it was general admission seating, that kind of thing. It was just, it's going to sound weird, this comparison, but it was like everyone's sitting around a campfire, except the campfire is a wrestling ring.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I get that, and I like that was. I kind of felt it was just like it was kind of a little bit like a sort of a schoolyard almost sort of feel to it. Yeah.
So and quickly run through the cards. So this is one where they announced a lot of matches, but just some of the bigger names were just in action. I think this is Jörn
Yeah.
and Bobby Guns were just Jörn Simmons, Bobby Guns will be in action. It's like against each other. Is there a local wrestling scene in Papenburg everyone's missed and they're going to be against local lads? And no, we'll get to that. But opening match, Dennis Stolnig over Rick Salem. That was pretty. It was Rick Salem's main roster debut. He did the showcase over Cowder Weekend, the APC stuff in 2020. I want to say that weekend in Paris.
He had a busy weekend. He worked 3 times that weekend.
He fit in really well here.
I
know
agree.
Dolnick took a hell of a beating. I think the end he was hobbling. Was that photo with I think was it Rick's footprint on his face after the opening match? Like that poor sod, he took a beating for his 6-7 minutes here.
Yeah, poor bugger. Dolnick always gets the short end of the stick. But
that guy off the string as well, if I remember right, for starting the end of the match.
Yeah, but Salem, I think, he's really, he's a good fit, I think, for sure. And being in continental Europe, being in France, he's accessible. He's not someone who's going to be flying. They can only have him for 3 months, and then he just goes back to America or whatever. So yeah, I think Salem's a really good sort of grab for them. We kind of mentioned him in the past, but he's kind of got a bit of a semi-magician, occultish. Well, it's a magician-y sort of gimmick, really, isn't it?
Yep.
Or a fortune teller or something like that. So that's isn't the whole thing that he can see the match in his crystal ball?
That's so he didn't have a crystal ball on this one, did he?
No, he didn't, did he?
So that's what threw. Yeah, because I'm confused him with.
He had it in his. I tell you where I saw him with he brought the crystal ball out on the Instagram beforehand.
Yep.
So if you ever watch the sort of if you ever go on the WXW Germany Insta on the day of a show, you'll just get loads of funny promos, really, like 30-second promos trying to sell tickets. And Salem had the crystal ball on that one. That's where I saw it.
Yeah, his gimmick is, I can see one move ahead, and like in the showcase match, it kind of worked. I think with this, he's coming in for one shot. There's only so much you can do. Obviously, we don't know if he's going to be brought back. Hopefully, he is, because variety is always the spice of life with these kind of things. You got a lot more against Stolnik than I would have expected with someone who was there as a warm body, for want of a better phrase. So, the signs are bright for him.
Yeah, I think like you say, really, he's an accessible hand, and Papenburg's not far from the Dutch, but it's like he's only, I don't know where in France he is, but if he's in Paris, he's only a 2-hour train to Cologne. He's only probably 4-hour drive, so it's not really that bad. I don't know where in France he's from, admittedly, but he's accessible. And I think you've got to, in these early sort of when you're in the opener against someone like Dennis Stolnig, you just got to give your best shot at it, really. And there's people who have got over with a lot less in WXW. So I think, especially, I think he was very popular He was very popular on the showcase show. He was very popular.
Moving on, had Tristan Archer against Michael Knight. This one went a couple of minutes before Rotten Flot came off for DQ. This was setting up your main event. We asked what was going on with Bobby Guns and Jörn Simmons. Well, here you go, play 6-man tag main event. Rotten Flot, Tristan Archer against Michael Knight, Bobby Guns, and Jörn Simmons. So this was, let's say, it was literally just set up for the main event. Next up, we had a main roster debut for Danny Frey out of the academy, losing effort against rotation, but I thought Danny Frey.
He did do one other show before Frey.
I know he's done the academy show, but I again double check. But I thought this one. If it's not
sure
I've seen him before. One of his first debut, one of his first matches. Yeah. But again, this is one of these. How can I put this without sounding harsh? Like a lot, we all see promotions who have either official academies or tie-ins with training schools, and then you see there's not really that much output. If you get where I'm going, like I've been criticised elsewhere. Like years back, I used to write for a Sunderland fanzine, and I made a similar complaint, and I got hauled over calls as well, because back then their academy wasn't churning out many players who went to the first team. I mean,
Yeah.
you had, Jacob Crane. And I'm not saying these are academy guys, they have worked academy shows. Jacob Crane, we talked about Frankfurt. Obviously, Oscar, that's, I wouldn't say special case, but definitely not the same category as this. Danny Frey came through the academy. He's been on the academy live shows. Now he's on the main roster, and yeah, he's not a guy you expect him to come in and get pushed straight to the top, but he also more than held his own.
This isn't a push. This is given him 25 minutes in the Carabao Cup. Really, this is what it is.
Well, yeah,
against your coach. So I think rotation gave him a lot more than I would expect him to.
Yes, the finishing bit as well. I thought
it's very giving.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's as I say, he's part of the academy output. At least you do sort of see where not where your money's going, but you know what I mean. There's at least an element of progression, and it's proven because people like HARRAS, Oscar, they've been proven to go forward.
Yeah, it's not. Again, I'm not going to single out any company because that's unfair. But like, say you see names, and we talked about before. You can watch old WXW shows. You can see clips of Norman Harris of a young fresh face Norman Harris of the academy, in the early classes, and you see him on the shows now. It's not just you're on the photo shoots of, hey, look, we had insert name, he was the guest trainer, and you never see them again until the next guest trainer's in. You actually see them on the shows, and yeah, it might be 5-10 minutes lost, but it's still a damn sight better than just being in photo shoots when trainer X comes in for seminar. But move on from there, we had the shotgun title, and wouldn't you know it, Mike, Norman Harris again.
I know, shocking behaviour, really, isn't it?
I want to see the rest of those balls. Like you had, the empty setter in, you had the old bingo tumbler. Like, was it Sebastian Holmikel joked? It's N Harris, Norman H, El Harasiov.
Horatio Norman. Yeah, it was again. It was Norbert. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's obviously what they're aiming for. I think when you have it, if you have it for the next one's in Vea, isn't it?
Next weekend, yep.
Yeah, so if it happens again, well, you obviously know what the stick is by this point. I think you're almost expecting it now.
I mean, Norman is getting closer. Like, this time round, it was he ripped off a turnbuckle pad, got caught, he got fined, and that's how he lost. His own distraction backfired. So he is getting close to the win. It's not like match one, he lost in 3 minutes. He is taking more of a match. He's getting closer to that.
I suppose technically Maggot is winning each time by unfair means. He's not winning clean. But then I don't think Maggot is a clean wrestler anyway. So yeah.
And there was that whole video, things after the Frankfurt show, Norman and Taz talking about, Norman complaining about, how unfair, cheating is going on in WXW, and you just have Taz sitting there, and he's like, "Oh, I'm really pleased you want to bring this up with me." Like he's going to catch Norman in his own act, but I do wonder what the payoff is going to be. I mean, I don't think we've ever had this sporting director be an active wrestler at the same time. So do you think
Andy was? Andy was.
I think while wrestling, I think Andy gave it up when the shows came back. Did you not?
Yeah.
I mean, you had the tag title thing, which got sliced to pieces. But I think my guess, and again, I'm always way off base.
I suppose the way you can go with it is that he's ousted by the board.
Or he's stripped of it. He wins the title eventually. Yeah. The board says, "Sorry, you can't be a sporting director and an active champion." They strip him, and then he throws a shit fit, and you spin off to web. But at the same time, if you do that, that's a lot of churn the sporting director thing. I don't know. Do you pay it off? Do you have him have 10 matches, or do you have him lose by DQ, and then the championship board directors inspects the lottery machine, and then he's out for picture for a while? But I think the end game when he does win it is he loses it straight away because of some minor rule or something like that.
Yeah, I think all the lottery ends up being Maggot like 6 times in a row.
Well, I
But, yeah.
mean, other promotions would do umpteen rematches without this kind of storyline, so why not?
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of rematches, rescheduled matches, Blanc, Senza Volto, they got rounded from Frankfurt. I think Senza had a new mask after what we talked about. I think this one was like 17, 18 minutes.
It was very long.
It felt, I mean, I liked
Yeah.
it, but it was one of those matches I've had this complaint about Rev Pro. I mean, I'm half through one of the shows for the moment, and it's like, I get doing long matches, but there just needs to be a point where it's like, okay, lads, take it home early. Like, I'm not saying the crowd were bored; they weren't, booing or saying, you suck, stuff like that. But by the end, it did feel like it could have been maybe 10 to 12 as opposed to 15, 17 minutes, that kind of thing. It
You
wasn't bad,
shouldn't
but
realise that the match has gone 20 minutes, nearly
no.
20 minutes. You shouldn't be sort of looking at it and going, Christ, we've now, there's no sign of this ending.
Yeah, I
um,
mean, we've both been at matches recently where we, next to Gadget's like, have you actually started the clock? Did you forget to reset back? No, it just felt that long that
yeah,
oh god, claw your eyeballs out. This wasn't that like that, but it was starting to get a bit on the long side. But I mean, one thing I
yeah.
would say for this, and we have seen some sense of Alto through Carrot getting a bit more aggressive. I
Yeah, there's a bit
don't
of an
know.
edge on him, yeah.
I don't know if it's heading down the heel sense of Alto route. Um, I don't know what that would look like. Bear in mind his gear is already black and gold.
Well, I suppose Igla Blanca and Sensavolta, they were kind of already designed, I think, by the design of the characters. You sort of kind of imagine that one's the light and one's the dark, really, isn't it? So I don't know. It's
I think
certainly some.
it's definitely
Then do you
step
want
one.
another? The problem is that they're already fighting each other. Like if they were tag teaming and then sensor splits, then you can then go work along the whole. Okay, we're going to do Senza Volta and Igla Blanc sort of head-to-head matches, but they're kind of already fighting head-to-head, so you don't know whether. I don't know how you can long out Igla Blanc and Senza Volta for too long because they're already doing the match.
I think this was more sporting. It was there wasn't
Yeah,
any out and out cheating. I think if you do go down that road, you wait till tag league. You have them. You do the whether it's maybe not the finals, but probably the semis. They go
I
out.
don't think Igla Blanc and Senza Volta will get to the final.
Well, I was saying
If they were, yeah.
they get the semis and then that's a big blow up. That's where you go. So maybe you do the the Brett and Owen stuff. Almost like brothers anyway. The whole needling each other. They have the odd slip up, but they recover, and then you have the one slip up too far. It costs them the biggest mums. Like, F you, I'm tired of this. You always hold me back, and
Yeah.
then you build into that going into 2023. But I don't want to say this was a audition, but it definitely felt like they were trying out stuff if they wanted to go down that road. And that's part of the beauty of these kind of things. If they decide not to go down that road, it was just a match between tag partners. They didn't frame it wholly as we hate each other's guts, but at the same time, it wasn't overly nicey nice, that kind of thing.
The absolute worst thing that could happen is that Senza Volta comes out with it with a bit of an edge.
Yeah.
That's well, the worst thing is you have Senza Volta and Igla Blanc fighting each other for a year, and it's boring. But I don't think that's likely to happen. But the worst case scenario, if they abandon it, they've just given Senza Volta a bit of an edge.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I think Igla Blanc could do with that as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, I would say his outfit too. I mean, they both came in during the empty set stuff. Senza's obviously got a bit more, I say, mainstream indie experience, for one better word, because he did
Senza
Southside
Volta is the
Retro.
star, I think, for sure.
Yeah. So had the interval after that. So come back. It's a darker show, at least in terms of being outdoors. First up after the intermission, Vincent Heisenberg against Oscar. Kept this one pretty short. No dry stick around this time. And this is one of those matches where it's a count out finish, things like 6 minutes. It's one of these matches like I get, if you want to do the whole, well, Heisenberg's main roster, Oscar's just the Academy champion. Okay, throw it all out. they did 6 minutes count out, pretty good brawl. I want to see this match again. I think this has got legs if they painted right. No, because you've got, Maggot's obviously shotgun champ, Baby Allison's women's champ. Heisenberg doesn't have anything to do for himself at the moment. I'm not saying make the academy thing. I don't know, they did that, and I think Heisenberg's well past the academy, with the the stuff they did in the empty set shows. But make it as I'm going to embarrass you again, that kind of thing. Don't have a challenge for a couple, just make it I want to embarrass you, and you have two big lads just knocking lumps out of each other, like we did here.
I do worry that they are putting too much on Oscar's plate at once, though, because if you think about it this way, you got Oscar potentially having the thing with Heisenberg, which I think they probably will. You've got the whole thing with Dreisker, plus you've got the whole thing with Rotten Flot, which kind of hasn't really resolved itself.
No.
You've got the whole Academy Cup thing as well. Like, kind of holding that in itself is probably, as much a thing. So effectively, you've got 4 storylines around a trainee. I'm not using trainee in a young lion. Let's say that. That's not a derogatory way of putting it. But you've got effectively four props / storylines on one sort of very, very fresh wrestler.
Yeah.
You do worry that it's kind of going to be one. Well, I expect probably the Rotten Flot thing will get forgotten, but I don't really see why it would be forgotten. I suppose everybody just kind of bullies Oscar, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know. Like you read bits about how Japan's obviously opening up again. He's made no secret that he wants to go to Japan when
he does
things
want
allow.
to be back.
I know he was also. I think he was in Japan at the start of the pandemic. With Gabe Kidd and the the other New Japan Young Lions. So again, I think this is not going to be a case of you wake up one morning and all of a sudden Oscar's in Japan. He's vacated the Academy Cup. I think it's going to be tied up nice, but I think they've given plenty of stuff to do. So if heaven forbid they have to play any kind of political games, they've got plenty of options. Right? How do we write them out? Is it our coach gets rid of him? Is it the other big guy beats him into oblivion? Is it the tag team? He's double teamed or what? So there's plenty going on. Or is it just, as he hints at, maybe he's overworked and it's I need to go away, work at this and come back. I mean, definitely having more irons in the fire is better than having none. But at the same time, It also does feel like potentially, this isn't like the Oscar show when Oscar's not around. People shouldn't be going, "Hey, where's Oscar?" That kind of thing, like Poochie. But there's plenty for him to do, which isn't a bad thing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think someone like Oscar is in a much better position than Santos was, for example. Santos was the Academy champion for God knows how long, and he had the odd match on sort of the main shows, but he kind of never really went beyond that, unfortunately. So it's better to have lots of things. Sorry?
You think Santos won the Academy Cup just before the pandemic, so
and kind of was
rotten timing.
And that's not entirely his fault either. But as I say, I think it's better to have lots of too much going on than not enough, really.
So moving on, we have the women's title. Ava Everett looking to regain the belt she lost, against Baby Allison. Obviously came out in a foul mood, telling Tommy the old man to stop the music so she can just mock the crowd again. Wants to take the title back to America. I think this one, I thought this is better than the Freeway, and again, it's just more because the Freeways you always have someone disappears usually, whereas this is a straight up one-on-one match. You had Ava do the whole thing like she did a carrot flicking water. It's Allison, demon be gone, all that stuff, which it didn't work then.
I thought the one at Carrot was better. I much preferred that one to this one.
I think Carrot definitely had a hotter crowd, I think.
Again,
I think again as well with this, you've also got the whole thing of, this whole, you peeled curtain too far back. She was advertised for shows in America the week after. You kind of knew this was the last one. No, in the end, she did do the whole thing of, it's my final match. She hates Baby Allison, her bald friend, and her slimy boyfriend. I think that's the translation. Not my words. Blame whoever translated this. But I mean, as for me, for someone who came in, I thought it would just be, beat the local talent, then maybe lose title matches. She did a lot more in her couple of weeks, couple of months rather, in Germany than I expected. And the fact that she was getting booed by the crowds for more than just being, oh, it's this foreign wrestler we've never heard of, let's boo. Like, pretty much every crowd she was in front of, she got a good negative
You got
reaction.
a reaction, which is obviously better than no reaction.
Yeah. Yeah, finish there was the Northern Lights flipped into that Mutilock submission. That's Baby Allison's thing. And then we see who's next for her. Main event, Rotten Flot and Tristan Archer against Jörn Simmons and the Only Friends. Six-man tags, always good. This was no exception. I think this one went over 20 minutes, but it didn't feel long either. I know we said about the Sense of Alter Weigel match earlier. They went pretty long. They did the stuff with Rotten Flot trying to bail out. I think with this, this is. I think we said about how WXW, everything being recorded means that you don't have the quote unquote house show experience. This to me felt like a house show main event, but in a good way.
It's very much a New Japan tag, I thought. And I love New Japan tags. I don't like single matches in New Japan. I only like the stable tags.
Road to insert name here.
Yeah.
From Corkin Hall.
Whenever it's the G1, I watch like the prelim matches, and I usually turn off the tournament. That was kind of the same sort of thing, really, and I kind of like that you kind of get the big stars all together, and people who don't necessarily always interact with each other. Sort of interacting is always fun, but it was. I always like to pick I always like to pick the person who takes the fall, because you can usually tell. And I think I was correct in being charisma. But as I said, it sent everybody home happy, really, and I think it was never going to be a one that's going to trouble any spreadsheets. But I thought it was all right, this one.
And again, it's one of those. You've got big events coming up. This kept things ticking along. It didn't. You weren't going to be selling main events, tickets for main event this in Frankfurt, Oberhausen. So it was a match you could do as a on the night surprise, or for Teddy Long, holla holla, main event stuff. Yeah, it's a pretty good show. I mean, what I would say with the WXW, we've said this for years, these kind of shows always are like the hold and steady stuff. You're not feeling shortchanged if you watch and it's like, oh, there's nothing good in this. It's 2.5 hours, flies by. There's always something on there that makes you feel like there's some. It's not a show where you think, I didn't need to watch that. There was always at least a nugget of something, whether it's setting up a future match, whether it's some kind of progression, or there's always something on there that's makes worth tuning in for, as opposed to, oh well, there's a show, there's matches, cool, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's not a. I think there's very rarely a wasted shit. There's shows that aren't necessarily vital, but you tell me a promotion where every single show is vital. There isn't.
These days, not the moment, no.
No. So,
but got a few news bits for a wrap up, and obviously upcoming shows. So, speaking of guys who we've seen on these shows, Progress of all people announced a 4-way with WXW lads for a spot in Super Strong Style 16. The show in Camden on May 15th. I don't know the name of the show off the top of my head.
Something about mountains.
No mountain high enough.
Something like that. I think that's it.
They're doing Bobby Guns, Axel Tischer, Jörn Simmons, and Maggot in a 4-way. When it gets into June Super Strong Style 16, it's made me buy tickets. I know it's made you buy a ticket. I guess we're both dirty sellouts for that. I don't care.
Yeah, well, I've always made it clear that I would go to any promotion that booked more than 2 WXW people in one show.
And even one match, so there you go.
It's only in one match, but listen, it's fine. I've made peace with it. Knowing what I know about the whole network deal now, and the fact that kind of WWE has no interest in Europe in general now, I'm kind of not that bothered anymore.
I mean, one thing I did notice, WXW tweeted yesterday, Carrot isn't going on the network, I noticed. They're doing
not immediately, no.
I don't know how it's exclusive to WXW now, so I don't know if that's just for now.
I don't know how you can do it. But I don't know how you can put that on the network if they've already drawn a line with with Progress not allowing Gresham. Well, sorry, them not
It's the
putting in
ROH
Gresham.
title not allowed to put
Yeah.
on it because they didn't put the title change on against Coronado, but the first match defending where he didn't have a Ring of Honor belt is on the network, so I'm guessing it's
Okay.
that belt. But again, I didn't pay attention to the English commentary, but if they bang on about he's Jonathan Gresham, Ring of Honor champion, I'd guess that might be kind of a dodgy line. But again,
But yeah, I think
WWE now, it's they should be watching this stuff.
yeah, exactly. It's the only way to watch it. Yeah, I mean, kind of knowing that WWE kind of has just no interest at all in Europe at all. Kind of, yeah, I'm probably making excuses for myself, really, or talking myself into it. But yeah, I'm going. So if you're coming to that show, then I'll see you there.
Yep. What we'll say is obviously the new three mates one call them that they were at Carrot, helping they were in the same hotel I was in. Those four guys, do you think they've picked on crowd reactions?
Well, it's the way you should pick them, to be honest.
Mag was was a big star. I mean, none of the Hungarian lads are there. But again, if it's just me spitballing, obviously, Jörn, always gets a big reaction.
For what it's worth, though, I think Jörn and Bobby Guns have been fabled workers in the sense that anybody who's gone to WXW in Germany has usually come back and said, "Oh yeah, Jörn and Bobby Guns are great. They should be booked in Britain more often." Jörn's already got I think he's got a bit of credit anyway from his previous run. Tisha, obviously, I think speaks for itself, really.
I think Maggot's unproven in Britain, which...
Yeah. And I think, but then the people who would have watched Carrot, everybody came out and said, Maggot's the one. So I think it's a smart booking decision. I don't really know how well it's going to play, because I don't do Progress. I've not watched Progress since Wembley. I've not even seen a Progress match since Wembley. So with that in mind, I don't know how people will react to that sort of thing. But I don't, I'm just going there to watch them, really.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is they use the same music library as WXW, so you can get Maggot's country western theme, which, if that doesn't get over, I'm losing all faith in British. I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah, but, well, I'd like to think that them being over means they're over a bit more often, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well, at least one would be in Super Strong Style Weekend, but we'll have to see who. But as far as WXW, what's coming up next for them? Mentioned earlier, they're in Viher, the Sports Centre Aspect. That's next weekend, April 30th. It's for Slamming Denmark. They're doing that show again. Announced so far, Jörn is defending the Unified World Wrestling title against Tristan Archer. We've got Axel Tischer against Igel Blanc, Only Friends against Rotten Flot, Levaniel against Heisenberg, and Senza Volto against Fast Time Moodle. I mean, obviously, the big match on that is the world title rematch. That is looking to be a pretty stacked show. And
it'll be a stacked show, although I'm not expecting any massive surprises.
I know they're taping NXT UK now, and this is again the whole maybe think a bit too deeply. If Tristan's on NXT UK or is involved, I could see maybe that's completely out the picture. So I was saying if Tristan Archer does pop in NXT UK, I could see maybe that's him out the picture. But again, I do think if it comes down to that, they still have Axel Tischer. We're going to do the Tischer rematch because he never got his one-on-one rematch for belt yet.
And I think they've kind of, I think they have said that Tischer is sort of the number one contender anyway, haven't they?
Around that way, yeah. I mean, there is one end in just about a month's time, which is a pretty obvious one for the rematch. We're going to go on those next because Vi is the only show which has got much of a card or any card so far. After that, in May, we've got the Event Hall Airport in Obertraubling. I think they've done
the day before Progress.
So it's right next to the airport.
Interestingly, Maggot and Tisha are both advertised, as well as the Agaro to Hungary and Allison. So one thing it does say is that there's no, well, Tisha and Maggot aren't going to be working in Britain the day before. Not that I expect they would have been anyway, but
No,
it just puts any speculation of, oh, Maggot could turn up at, I don't know, Good Wrestling or something. It's not likely to be happening.
I would be stunned if they booked Max. I mean, hey, they got Andre Cartier and Dirty Dragon at one time, which was a bit of a
Yeah.
riot.
Yeah.
So May 14th in Obertraubling, then we have the double header in Saxony. May 28th for Stromberg and Dresden for True Colors. May 29th for Hellraiser in Leipzig for another reel of wrestling. Just going a little bit further ahead, so we've got Dead End in the Grunspan in Hamburg. I think we said that's half sold out. That's in July. But first, for the Market Hall in Hamburg on June 3rd.
Which is the bank holiday, Her Majesty's bank holiday
Yep,
in
for
Britain.
the
So
super.
it's
Oh,
looking likely that I'm probably going to be going.
and I've just joined some dots here, and I hope this isn't a spoiler.
Yeah.
So June 3rd is 2100 days since Bobby Guns lost in Hamburg, but Bobby
Yeah.
Guns is not on any of the advertising. That's Super Strong Style 16 weekend. Yarno Shrug, maybe, but we'll find out in a few weeks. And going a little bit further ahead into June, we touched on this earlier. Saturday 11th and Sunday 12th of June, they've got the double header for Turbine Hall. Broken Rules on the Saturday, Wheel of Wrestling taping on the Sunday. So far, you've got Jonathan Gresham, and I think they're doing a poll. No, do they have Gresham in Hamburg on June the 3rd, or do they have his title shot in Oberhausen?
For what it's worth, just looking at the advertising for the Hamburg show, they don't have Tisha, Simmons, or Maggot on there either, so I don't necessarily think it's saying anything particularly. But...
They're keeping it smart, and they're not telegraphing a single thing.
Yeah.
Why should you?
Yeah, no, that's because they think about things like that.
But yeah, so for the Oberhausen weekend in June, we've got Gresham, Robert Dreisker, Lavaniel, Axel Tischer from Smash in Canada. You've got Sebastian Suave and Psycho Mike back. And as you mentioned, Masha Slamovich from Impact, which, I mean, I remember when those shows were first announced, 2020, you know, back when it was very hopeful they're just going to be over in a matter of weeks. Those were originally all seated tapings. We're now selling standing tickets for these, which I think it's the first somewhat standing show since the pandemic started. So they've got a pretty decent line, because no matches, because we're 2 months out from it, but pretty decent roster for that already.
Yeah, and say they're well, Gresham's obviously quite a big draw to the show anyway. In the same way that Sabre sort of doing Hamburg a few years back as well was a bit of a big draw for me going over. So yeah, it's a good mix. I think I like Sebastian Suave, Psycho Mike I like as well, and I think Slamovich as well is a big name. I suppose she is a big name. I think she's big name if you know who she is. If you don't know her, then
you'll find out
for a treat.
quickly.
I think that's always a good thing. The people that know will hold the hand, I think, of people who don't. So yeah, I think it's a good sort of initial lineup. But then you can, there's always things that come in time, because they can't really much when you run such a compact schedule. You can't really telegraph things 3 months away.
No, but
unless
again,
it's a one-off sort of big match, you can't really telegraph it.
Yeah,
we don't even know who the champion's going to be at that point, really, do we?
True, and no, and again, we've had stuff like this before where someone's gotten injured and that's thrown everything out. But in fact, we've got some pretty big names in here. Hopefully, it takes to start moving. But going to be talking a lot more about that weekend as we get close to June. But next show on WXW now is that Slammen den Mai. That's coming up Tuesday, May 3rd, if you want to listen in German. Next day, Wednesday, May 4th, if you want to listen in English. And I'm guessing as well, just looking from those, the Obertraubling stuff, that'll probably be following week. And I guess the True Colors and the Wheel of Wrestling from Leipzig be going into June. But plenty to look forward to. And my guess, anything else you're looking forward to? Anything you want to plug as we wrap it up?
Nothing initially. No. Well, it's as always. you can catch me elsewhere. You can catch me on Twitter. I'm Mike Kilby on everything, basically. So if you want to stalk me on everything, just do Mike Kilby. The only thing I do outside of this really is I do the Groundhoppers Guide, which is a football stadium podcast with Arnold Furious. That's on YouTube, so if you just type in the Groundhoppers Guide, you'll be able to find that. But yeah, apart from that, no, not really. I think not anything really else to plug.
Of course, when
What
Get
about
These
you?
shows
Yeah.
out, backbodyshop.com, forummania.com to make some reviews, pop up on there. I'll be spending the next few weeks biting what nails I have left to see if Sunderland make it into the playoffs or whether it's going to be yet another season in League One, but probably the
I'm
latter
fairly
at this point.
confident of Luton in the playoffs, so it's fine at this point. So,
well, do we play you or do we play Derby next season?
I hope neither.
Likewise.
That'd be nice.
Anyhow, thanks very much, Mike. Say we'll be back probably some point in early May after the Via show drops. Say catch us on Twitter, Instagram, all the good stuff's in the podcast notes, and we'll see you in a few weeks' time.
See you later.